Welcome back to this video on useful language. In this video, we're going to focus on choosing the correct level of formality to write in. I'm going to be showing you a lot of useful phrases that you can remember and use in your own letters. First, we're going to take a look at how to achieve an informal tone in your letters. Firstly, we're going to use contractions. So instead of writing I would or we would or I am, we're going to use I'd, we'd, I'm. So they are contractions that give your letter an informal tone. You're going to use phrasal verbs when you can. They are combinations of words such as sort out, think up, sit down, get up, get along, go along with, get away with, come up with. They are all phrasal verbs that give your letter an informal tone as well. You're still going to use correct spellings, as this is still important even though your letter is informal. And you're going to avoid using text abbreviations. And also you're still going to avoid any slang type language that you may have picked up elsewhere. So you're still using real language, it's just that you're going to use it in an informal way. And logically, if we want to write in a formal tone, we're not going to use contractions. So we're going to write the words out in full. I would, I am, we are. We're going to avoid using phrasal verbs, but we're still going to use correct spellings. But we are going to try and use specific vocabulary. So when we use vocabulary that is specific to a situation, it makes the vocabulary or the tone of the letter more formal. We'll look at a few examples of that in a moment. There are 6 different types of letters that you might be faced with in the test, and they are letters where you need to request information, letters where you need to provide personal or factual information, for example in a job application, letters where you need to explain a problem or situation, for example a letter of resignation or a letter of apology, letters where you need to make a request or explain why you need something or want something. For example, invitations or making arrangements for something. There are letters of complaint, and there are letters where you may need to make a suggestion or recommend something. We're now going to look at these different letter types in turn and look at the types of language that could be used if the letter were of a formal or informal type. Here is language you might use in a letter that's making a request. The phrases in red are the phrases that you can learn and use in your own letter. So the formal phrases, if it's a formal letter, are could you please let me know? Would you mind telling me? Could you please inform me of? Would you mind letting me know? And I would like to find out. And the informal way to make a request is can you? This time we have language you could use when explaining your wants or needs. We've got formal and informal versions of the same sentence, so you can see the difference in language choice. The first one reads, I would like to cancel the appointment due to the fact that we have already completed the project. I want to cancel the appointment because we have already finished the job. Using the phrase due to the fact that is far more formal than using because. So that's a really good one to remember. Also, you can see the choices in language. I would, far more formal than I want, and completed the project compared to finished the job. All of those affect the tone of your language. Here's the next one. Please process our bank loan application as quickly as possible, as we have a considerable project that we need to start working on. Compare that to, please get on with our bank loan application ASAP, as we have got a lot on. So in the informal version there, we've used a phrasal verb, get on with, that always makes language more informal, and we've our language choice is much more informal. Got a lot on, rather than need to start working on. But the word as can be used in both formal and informal letters. We would like to request a full refund owing to the fact that your company caused much distress to my family and I. There we use owing to the fact that. That's a really nice formal phrase, again, that you can try and remember. Compare that to, we want a full refund thanks to your company really annoying us. So using thanks to is an informal way of saying because. Unfortunately, we cannot accept your kind invitation in view of the fact that we have a prior engagement of utmost importance. Unfortunately, we can't make your wedding as we've got something on already. Again, sentences have the same meaning, but the language choice is very different. So here, in view of the fact that, is another really nice formal expression that you can use instead of using because. This time we are providing personal or factual information, and again we've got informal and formal versions, and you'll see once more that it's all about language choice. So, I quit my last job because it was too difficult. I resigned from my previous position due to the fact that it was a highly pressurized environment. So, resigned compared to quit. Previous position, last job. Highly pressurized environment, too difficult. It's just simply choice of language. I think I would be awesome at this job as I've done it before loads of times. I believe I would make a highly efficient employee in your company due to my many years of experience in similar roles. Again, you can clearly see how the language is selected to be much more formal on the right compared to on the left, the informal version. I went to St Mary's High before starting at Oxford Uni. I finished there with a top degree. I attended St Mary's High School before enrolling at Oxford University, from which I graduated with a first-class honours degree. So there we go once more. I attended rather than I went to, enrolled at rather than starting at, graduated from rather than finishing from. So this might seem quite simple, but you need to be aware of these language choices that you need to make in order to get the right tone for your letter. This time we're looking at language to explain a problem or situation, and we've got formal and informal versions again. Here's the first one. We really need you to process the application urgently due to the fact that we have important clients waiting for the result of this. Compared to, we need you to hurry up with the application because we have customers waiting on this. Again, the phrasal verb there, hurry up, gives it an informal sound. Please accept my formal letter of resignation, as after due consideration, I feel it is time for me to move on to a new challenge. Here is a letter telling you that I'm leaving, as after thinking about it, I want to try something different. My son William is now receiving medical treatment owing to the fact that a driver from your company did not show due care and attention to other road users. Owing to the fact that is another phrase that you could try and remember and use in your own formal letters. My boy William is in hospital thanks to a careless driver from your company not looking where they were going. Again, we're using thanks to rather than owing to the fact that to give it an informal tone. And finally, personally, I think you should refund our rent in view of the fact that I am unable to sleep. I demand my money back as I haven't slept in days. Here we have language you can use for making a complaint. So you might start your complaint like this. I'm writing to complain about. I'm writing to you regarding the. And the informal version is I'm really not happy with. I am furious about. After that opening sentence, you might use to explain why it's a problem. As you can appreciate, it is difficult to, or consequently, it is difficult to. If it was an informal letter, you might say, it has meant I can't, or it has caused me. Then, to explain what you want done about it, you might use one of these sentences. Therefore, I would appreciate it if you could. Therefore, I would be grateful if you could. Or in an informal way, that is why I want you to. So, I want you to. So, there we have both formal and informal ways of making a complaint. And using the sentences in that order is a really nice way to organize your letter of complaint. To write a letter making a suggestion or giving a recommendation, you might use any of the following for a formal letter. I'll highly recommend. One approach to this would be to. One way to deal with this would be to. Perhaps you could. However, in an informal letter, you might write, I think you should. You really ought to. It would be a great idea too. Don't you think we should? And finally, here are a couple of options for you to use when writing your purpose statement. Remember, this is the first sentence you write at the beginning of your letter. So, if it's a formal letter, you could write, I am writing to inform you of, or I am writing this letter in order to. However, if you're writing to a friend, you could just write, I'm writing to let you know that, or I'm just writing to tell you about. Either of those example sentences will work just fine. Finally then, try to remember at least 2 of the phrases in red for each letter type. This will mean you have enough language to be able to answer effectively any type of question that you are given on the day. Remember to be aware of the tone of your letter, and the tone is created mainly by your choice of words. So for a formal letter, you're not going to use contractions and you're not going to use phrasal verbs. You're also going to try and use specific language for the situation you are in. For an informal letter, you can use contractions and you should try to use phrasal verbs. This will give a nice informal feel to your letter. And remember to be consistent throughout your letter. Don't start in one tone, formal tone for example, and get lazy halfway through and switch to an informal tone. This will lower your band score. So, that's enough for this lesson. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.